Yo, what's up? My name is Flocka and we're here with a tutorial, and I'm not going to waste your time because we've got 45 minutes of action ahead of us in order to get the most epic flying ship built in LEGO Fortnite. It's the upgraded version of the flying base we built a while back, and we're here because you guys showed me so much love on episode 7 of the Canopy SMP. So I gotta fulfill my duty and get this tutorial out for you guys. I made a couple upgrades for you too. Let me know what you think of them down in the comments, but without further ado, let's get right in. To start your flying ship, you're probably going to want to build some stairs if you're in survival, and definitely go with the double jack. I'm going with the small one and then a large one on top. Now let's go into toys, vehicle parts, and grab the vehicle base 3. This is what's going to start us off. Let's make sure that it's in the middle of the jack, and let's snap 4 to each side. So 3, 4, 3, 4. On each end here, let's snap another vehicle base so that it's nice and flush here, like a T, but we're also gonna do it to the other side. Now from here on out, just make sure that you're duplicating this on the other side, okay? Everything's pretty much symmetrical. We're gonna start with going into any wall piece, doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna grab a random one. I'm gonna snap it so it's flush here on the end, and then what we're going to do is grab any half wall. I'm gonna use the log cabin one, and I'm gonna snap it flush with the top of the vehicle base. I'm then gonna take the 2x16 log cabin rustic interior wall, and we are going to start making the small ships on the end. So snapping one of the 2x16s to the half wall, and then snapping the little half wall corner onto the end of the 2x16s. We're gonna make a rectangle here like this. You can go ahead and destroy that wall piece that's underneath that you use to get your first one on. From here, go and take whatever desired 16x16 floor you want to use. Fill it in. There will be a 2x16 gap here, so you'll need to fill that. Now let's go into the wood foundations because we need to make some landing gear. We also need to round out the bottom of the ship. Next, we're going to take the 4x16 wood foundations, flush with each corner like this. A good way to get this filled in is with the Shogun Palace 6x2 floors. And instead of placing 6 extra pieces, I'm just gonna place 3 on the outside like that. We'll move in 2 studs on these next 4x16s, and then just do the same thing with those 6x2 floors. We don't need to go down too much, so I'm gonna go ahead and just fill this in right here. And then same thing on the back. If I end up off 2 studs, we're just gonna fill it in with 3 of the floors. I think what I wanna do underneath before I put my landing gear on is put 4 more of these 16s like this. For the landing gear, we need something durable, so I've decided to use this fender, medium fender, and I'm gonna point my cursor underneath the second lip of 4x16s, and we are going to place one not right at the front, maybe 2 studs back on both sides, and obviously on the back end. I'm gonna designate this my front, so pointing at this broken banana hut. We're gonna place a large steerable tire on both sides like this, and on the back side we are gonna place the non-steerable one, so just a regular large powered wheel. Feel free to do whatever you want for your own landing gear too. Okay, so I'm actually gonna move the tires in here, 4 studs, so a total of 6. Okay, so next we need to put in some balloons. So we're going to be putting in activated and just regular small balloons. What you're going to want to do is start in the corner on one side and start in the corner on the other side with the regular small balloons, and just place them all down alongside this wall here, just like this, until you reach the end on both sides. You're not going to be able to place another balloon on the end here, but that is why we went to alternating corners when starting our lines, so that these balloons end up being even technically. We're now going to put in activated balloons. Now these can probably be put right here, but just to be safe, I'm just going to nudge it over an extra stud. No harm in doing that. We're gonna match this up with the same starting points as we had before, and we're gonna line these all the way down to the end, just like the regular small balloons. There you go. And that is just one car. Remember, you have to do this to the other side as well. Now grab a 16 by 2 wood floor. I'm gonna grab the Shogun Palace one because I think it'll actually go the best with what we're doing here. And we're gonna stack 2 of them high on each corner like this. And then 2 on the ends, while putting 6 by 2s just like that. And now we're gonna take a 16 by 16, whatever we want. I'm gonna take this pirate plank wide floor, and we're gonna place one there, and we're gonna place one there, and we'll put this in the middle. And you know what? We'll actually throw down that last 6 by 2 right there. Now we need to make the actual boat shape here because, let's be real, this isn't that cute. Now, in between these 2 cars, we are going to connect some floors. So on each side, let's snap a 16 by 16. Bam, just like that. Now, right in the middle, in between them, this might take a couple of tries. We're gonna place a 16 right there and one on top. And we'll just snap a 16 by 2 just like this, and that sliver of room right there is totally fine. So we're snapping these foundations just like this. You saw how I overlapped that opening right there. Underneath, we are basically just going to snap like this. Now you have your jack right here, but feel free to go ahead and throw a jack underneath the middle of each one of these now, just to be sure that this holds up. Right? You can never be too sure. Then we're gonna go ahead and get rid of the original jack. Now we can go ahead and build the rest of this boat. Snapping a bunch of these 4x16s together just like this. Can't really come up with anything that great to fill in underneath here besides moving these foundations out a stud maybe and using the 4x4 foundations. So I'm going to use this musical railing from the Fortnite Forever Festival to fill this in, but feel free to use whatever you think looks best. I tried quite a few options and even thought about just building it a little bit different. Maybe even just throwing a whole bunch of floor pieces, but it's going to go with this. Now, underneath in the hull here, I think we're going to try to squeeze some more balloons. Now, I'm not totally guessing. I'm mostly just trying to get the numbers and locations of the balloons similar to what I had on the previous model. And then we'll see how it goes. So I'm putting some activated balloons here as well. I can always come back in and remove them if I need to balance things out. Now, up top, we want to start building this boat. I think I'll start by going flush with the previous 4x16, but it'll be sticking out a little bit. Okay. Now we'll start building. I won't go too large, but I do want the center part of the boat to be quite big. I'm gonna place a floor piece like this right over that sliver that wasn't covered up before. Now remember which side is the front and which side is the back, because that is gonna determine how you build up each side here. On this bottom section here, let's put 4x16 foundations, but nudge in 2 on each layer. Just like that. Don't forget to also do that to the back side. On whatever you're designating your front side, you're gonna snap these 4x16s to the ends like this, but then we're gonna nudge them in 2 like this. Make sure we're only doing this to the front side. We're now going to need to use a ton of 4x4s. So go underneath where we're building the front. And we're going to go boom. This on each layer, creating a textured effect for the boats. Bring this bottom layer right here to a point. You can also do that with this spot right here if you'd like. So I want you to go back on top of the boat. I want you to nudge a 4x4 cleanly into this spot. Then I want you to push it out 2 studs like this. On the layer above, we're gonna go out 1 stud. We're gonna do a single stud out 1 more time. And then on top of that layer, we're gonna go out 2. So we'll have to fill it in like this on the inside. Looks like there's a spot for some lighting here. Now, instead of building on top, we want to build kind of like halfway up with these foundations on the side. I'm gonna do it 1 more time. Just kidding, I lied. We're gonna do it 2 more times and then add 1 to the end. And then the same way that we added some extra like pointiness to the bottom here, we're gonna do the same thing. So pointing on this extra stud here, we're gonna nudge it out till we can place it. Same thing there, just make sure that it's nice and tight underneath that previous foundation, and just keep doing that. It looks like I can't place one right there, so what I'll do is there should be a 4x4 floor that I could use to fill in that gap. Now we can go ahead and put some 4x4s down. So the first one is going to be 2 studs over the 4x16, and then we want to be able to cover that gap right there. So to do that over here as well, we're gonna need to do the same thing. So like this, and then boom. And we'll just put them everywhere on the top. Save myself some pieces, use the 16x2s there. Let's throw 1 right here. And we'll line these all the way to the front. So what I want for the front is some sort of like side stairs. leading up to the actual like floor here, which is gonna probably be like here. But let's stack some 4x4 wooden floors on the sides. So what you're gonna do is grab a 16x16, whatever floor you're using. We're gonna fill in this gap here. I think a 12x2 looks like we'll fill in this gap here, but instead what we're gonna do is we're gonna nudge it forward a stud, and I'm gonna take the appropriate length Shogun Palace floor, and we're gonna go like that. We'll start placing the appropriate sized floors. I'm just gonna use the log cabin floors. Oh, it looks like we might be off a little bit. Let's go like this. That's placing the 16x2s so that they fit. We'll just take the 6x2 and we'll snap it in where we can. We'll leave a little bit of room here. So like that and like that. And we'll top it off by maybe doing something like this. I don't know. Or like this, because it doesn't look like the other thing's gonna work. And then right here, we'll fill in these gaps the same way. It's gonna leave a little bit of space there. So let's snap 16x4s straight on with the previous ones. Okay, and then you know how we had it going out just like we had it in the front here? We're taking it down so that it's just the one. And instead we're gonna build out on each side, at least one floor, and then stacking it straight up on top. And doing about 2 of these. We're stacking 2 of those on top. You're gonna have to do the same thing with the 4x4s on the back. You can just snap them to the pieces that already exist. I'd like to take this moment to apologize for my ADHD building. I am not going off the same blueprint as the last build, so you're getting a more creative tutorial. Like it, hate it, either way, this thing's gonna turn out sick. So if you are enjoying the tutorial so far and you're able to follow along, don't forget to drop a like on the video. Appreciate you. Let's get going. We're gonna take the 2x4x6 rustic interior wall, or honestly any one of the walls that you're using that is of this dimension. We're gonna place one on each side like this, and then we're gonna place a second one on each side. I'm gonna take the 8x8 rustic interior floor, and on both sides we're gonna place down a floor. So I'm throwing down some floors like this into pillar. Looks like we'll need 8x8 floor, which is what I will put on top like that. This is definitely one of those spots you're gonna wanna maybe put it on half speed or do whatever you gotta do, because we put a lot of pieces down, but we also destroyed a lot, so the editing process was crazy. But we're basically just putting some floor pieces a little bit below this foundation and throwing some fence up. I'm gonna try to do my best to explain what's going on here, but basically we're just filling in the floor of the back cabin and building up the shape. I took a slight little hiatus here when I went up to the front to build some stairs to get up to the top of the cabin, but basically what I'm doing here is using umber walls and foundations to build up the back, which is what you'll see here in a minute. For reference, those walls are about 2 floors over the fence piece. And like I said, we're jumping up to the front here to build some stairs to get up to the top part. I threw a floor in between these stairs to kind of level that off or make it look good, I guess. And then these back pieces using foundations or umber walls, you can use whatever you want. We're basically just building a slant upwards to build the backside of the boat. Then I'm filling in all of the gaps with floor pieces, and I want to start putting some fences on the sides. So I'm throwing fences on the sides of the floors here, but I'm making sure that there's floor pieces down underneath them. And then I'm also putting fences on the top, so there's 4 on each side. Underneath, we're building the shape of the boat, so try to follow along with the pieces exactly, or just use the 4x4 foundation pieces and whatever floor pieces you need in order to make some sort of curve. Basically, you're just going to extend the bottom of the ship, and once you get towards the back, you're going to try to kind of curve it up a little bit, or do what I did here and just use the umber half wall and build it straight down. Now, there is a little bit of lip of room here on the top. I'm gonna put the full umber walls on top of that in order to get the back a little bit more depth. And then we're also gonna do another layer, so putting a support on the top and in the middle or towards the bottom of those walls, we're gonna make another layer of those umber walls. And with that, we have the shape of the boat. Underneath both sides of the middle boat, so in the middle of the hull, you're going to want to fill out the rest of that with balloons and the activated balloons. We're going to remove some of those later, but don't worry about it. So just fill up the hull with balloons and then put some fence pieces on the top of your ship, just like you did on the backside to finish it out. Underneath, we're adding thrusters for turning. We're going to add some more in a little bit, but for now, let's throw these underneath. So 4 smalls on each side and 1 large, and then change them to the channel that you usually have for whatever channel you use to turn each direction. Because on the back side of this boat, we need to make a spot to actually steer this thing and use those channels. So I'm using floor pieces and especially the 4x4s to build a short and quick staircase up to the top of this little platform here where I have the driver's seat. I threw a swivel on the back of it so that whenever I drop into the driver's seat, it's in first person view. I'm not gonna keep that one. I'm actually gonna move that to a different spot, but for now, we're gonna add our turning thrusters onto the small ships. We're putting these small thrusters on each of these little compartments here. So filling it in with the foundations and then putting the thrusters on and then changing it to the respective channel that you use to turn whatever direction you want. Now we're building up the front end of the small boat. Honestly, you can build it up the same way on the back. You can do it on all 4 corners of these boats and build it however you want, but we're doing it kind of like we built the front end of the boat. So we're like curving it up a little bit and bringing it to a point with the foundation pieces. And once we do that, it's time to build the actual car of these small boats. Now, this is where the workstations can be held, and you can do this with any sort of support that you might have. I'm using the ones from the Lions Night bundle, I think, or you can use this any sort of wall corner, but basically what I'm doing is taking 16x2 floor pieces. I'm nudging it over 2 studs from the very end of the supports, or like the actual corner of the supports. And then we're going over 1 stud, bringing it up. And then once I get towards the middle, we're throwing a 16x2 and then bringing it down on the other side. I'm filling in the end here with the appropriate floor pieces. So I believe there's a 8x2 and a 6x2 and then a 16x2 in order to get that done. And then I decided to actually put supports here in the middle of the car as well, creating kind of 2 separate entrances. I realized that this gap was 10 studs, so I wasn't going to get it done with regular pieces. So I stacked 4x4s and then put 16x2s up top. I then put just regular 6x2s in between and then put 4x4s on the other end, making the 10 studs. And then I just went ahead and finished off the floors, copying what I did on the other side on this side as well. I went ahead and lined the inside of the boat with some fence pieces. That way we could get it closed off. And then I wanted to build the other end of this side of the boat. Now, I'm only doing one side for now, but make sure that you duplicate everything you've done on all 4 corners of the boats. That way everything is symmetrical and you don't forget anything. The small boats on both sides of the main boat should look the same when you're done. Now, I've only got 1 built so far, so make sure you're duplicating that so that you're just getting it all done at once. We're gonna build the actual balloon now. So I'm using the Salty Seaport full stair railing and the half ones. I'm doing 4 studs away from the end for the full ones and then putting these half ones pointing in. And then I'm doing another set of half ones going the same direction as the fulls. And then I just decided to add another couple of railings here just to make it look like it was supported a little bit more. From here, I actually went ahead and destroyed the outside full railings. It just felt excessive and unnecessary. And now I'm actually going to start the building of the balloon. So we're going to be using a few pieces from the Beachside Boulevard set. We'll be using these 12 by 2 walls, as well as 6 by 2 white floors, and like an assortment of the other floors to fill things in. So watch closely as I place all the pieces here, and I'm just going to try to explain the most important aspects. For reference, that is 3 16 by 2s wide, making sure that it's nice and centered. And from this point on, I'm just nudging one stud over with these Beachside Boulevard walls, trying to kind of make an oval shape. And in the back, I kind of want to make it look a little bit more rounded off. So what I'm doing is I'm just making a pattern here. I believe there are 19 or 20 half walls here used to make this curve in the back. There are 30 studs of room on the inside, as you'll see here. And once we clear the curve, it's just a straightaway to the other side of the balloon. To make the curvy part of the balloon, we're going to use 6 by 2 floors underneath, and to start, we're going to nudge one stud in underneath those wall pieces, kind of like all the way over until the side, and then we're going to stop and start another layer. These ones are going to be 2 studs in, and every layer after that is going to be 2 studs. You can honestly make as many layers as you'd like, but I maybe would just recommend following along. So we're going for a third layer here. Like I said, 2 studs in. The amount of pieces you got to place on each layer gets a little bit easier each time. But we're going for a 4th layer here. And a 5th layer. And I think that'll be about good. Now, the plan is to fill this in with floor pieces. But we do got to get rid of these side pieces a little bit because the shape is kind of funky on the side. So it was kind of difficult figuring that out, and you'll see that later. Now I'm kind of just snapping in floor pieces as I can. I got to kind of build up something for the side, so I'm snapping even or sort of even, maybe a stud in on those floor pieces on the flat sides, and then I'm just going flat on the bottom of this. So once I get to that 5th or 6th level of floors, I'm just gonna go straight across with the 16 by 2s or whatever you want to do that's gonna make this go a lot faster. Now, during my process, it did get a little bit tricky. I had to use some fence pieces and flush them with the bottom of the floors in order to keep the illusion, because I couldn't get rid of this one stud gap and keep the symmetrical shape that I wanted. Honestly, do whatever you gotta do to make your own bubble shape. Just make sure that it's symmetrical. That's all that matters. Next, I'm taking the musical pillar cap and using the trigger plate. I'm putting it upside down, and I'm gonna do 2 of these. And then I'm going to put a support pillar or a wall upright underneath here so that I can get a floor piece underneath those musical caps. Why? Well, because I want to build a cabin right underneath the balloon. I'm going to use these pieces from the Lions Knights bundle, I believe, but feel free to just use half walls to create some windows or something. Half walls and then do them 6 studs away and then put floor pieces in between would also give the same effect. And then I want to build some sort of like staircase up to this cockpit. So what I'm doing is taking 4x4 floor pieces, I'm doing the double stack and then nudging over a stud after stacking them up twice. And I'm doing this all the way up to the cockpit. And I'm actually going to do this on both sides, not just the left side here. I threw the driver's seat towards the front of this thing, and then I threw some walls behind it because I really wanted to add a cool feature, which would be first-person flight up top in this little cockpit area. So we threw this switch behind, and then I hopped in the driver's seat, and I would say this is going to work out pretty good. Now it's time to finish things off here. So I finally duplicated the second boat. You should already have that done as well. And I'm using these half railings in order to connect it to the actual cabin area, just to give it a little bit more life. So make sure you do that on both sides. And then I'm building out the back side of the cabin, not doing anything crazy, just using some umber walls here. And then I went ahead and built up the other end of my stairs. Once I did that, I kind of wanted to add a more supporting looking structure to this. So I just used umber half walls and built them down as you see here to kind of make it look like there was a little bit more support for what was going on here. If we followed every step correctly and or we have just duplicated everything we've done on one side to the other side, we should have something that looks like this. It's not finished, but to be honest, go ahead and pat yourself on the back for making it this far. That being said, there's still a little ways to go, so let's push to the finish line with these last few details here. We're gonna go ahead and fill in this balloon, but we're not gonna fill in the top completely because we've got some balloons to place as well as some thrusters up top. And to get started, I've gotten rid of the fence, one on each side, just to get started. That way we can fill in the back side, kind of the same way we did the other side. So just one stud off with the 6x2, and then everyone in from there, we're gonna go 2 studs. Until we're at the exact height of the previous floor that we've done. And then we're just gonna fill in the floors to connect, basically making sure that we make our curves with those 6x2s on the ends first before filling in the floors. It really will get a little bit difficult towards the end here as you try to find the right pieces to fill in the gaps. I was just kind of guessing, and I think we got a pretty good shape here. If you work those 6x2s the way you should, it should take care of most of the work, and then you just got to figure out what sizes you need to finish it off. So there will be a little bit of an opening above those umber walls. You can just leave it because we're just going to fill it over with floors above it anyways, so that we don't have to worry about it visually. And once you do that, it's all going to be taken care of. It's time to throw balloons up in the balloon. And I'm going to show you an initial pattern to go with. And then we're obviously making changes because, like I said, we're going to be taking about 10 simple balloons and 10 activated balloons from each side or each end of the large boat hull and bringing it up to the top here towards the end in order to get the actual lift that we want. But for now, we're just gonna line some simple balloons on each end. So this is the back end, I believe. And we're just trying to get it as close to the wall as possible, making sure that it's even on both sides and that the balloons are as close to each other as possible. Doing the same thing on the back end. I'm trying to make sure I place down approximately the same amount of balloons. It doesn't really matter, I guess, if we're off by 2. but this is what I ended up with. And then I threw some activated balloons down on these railings. If you don't have railings here for some reason, you figured out the floor pattern just perfectly, just throw them down right here. Actually aiming a little bit more towards the front rather than the back. And then we're going to throw some activated balloons here in the back to support it, because I believe there's a little bit more weight hanging on the back. So we're going to throw activated balloons here, and then obviously we're going to test this, and I can explain how all that testing works, but it doesn't really matter how many balloons you decide to bring up to the top after what I show you here. You just need to make sure that you're taking those 40 balloons from the main boat and bringing them up to the balloon here before you add those extra balloons. So that's 10 activated in simple from each end of the boat, and then just divvy them up equally. We're gonna add some thrusters on the inside of the balloon to push on the top end of the vehicle. We're gonna add a lot here, so 5 here, and then I believe 4 in the center, so we'll need to build something for that. Somewhere towards the middle, I'm gonna add a 16x2. I don't think it really matters, but we're just gonna place it right here. Just make sure it's in the middle. I'm gonna stack this 5 high just to be sure. And I'm gonna throw more thrusters on this one. I'm gonna say that this is enough balloons. It's not enough balloons. We need to get into the middle boat, so knocking out the floor on each side. You're gonna take out 10 simple balloons and 10 activated balloons on each end of the boat, and then you're gonna bring those up to the top balloon. Now, you're actually gonna adjust a little bit more than that. I'm not actually replacing all of the simple balloons. I'm gonna put most of them in the back. I'm actually gonna put 6 in the very back, and then I'm gonna put 4 in the middle like this, and then I'm gonna replace all of the activated balloons, just trying to make them as even as possible. And I test this by bringing the ship up into the air. That tests the activated balloons, so I see which way it tilts. And then I let it fall, which tests the regular simple balloons, and I see which way it falls. This helps me figure out which balloons I need to adjust and move where. Also, pay attention to how high it's rising as well. You might want to just add more balloons overall. And like I said, I tried to show off every single piece that I placed, or at least everyone that I could. I was a little bit reckless in this build process, and I apologize, but if you for some reason found yourself enjoying this video and enjoying the build process, don't forget to come back to the video and drop it a like when you can. I really appreciate you guys being here. It's time for the finishing touches, and it's time to get this thing in the air. Before we get started, I'd really like to add some turning up top here. So we're gonna add large thrusters to each end, and I don't really want to waste your time, so add 2 large thrusters to each corner and adjust them to the appropriate channel. You'll see I only have 1 in each corner right now. Like I said, I don't want to waste your time, so just throw 2 in the corners, and that'll be perfect to get you some good turning. That also helps it from tipping over, having turning up in the balloon as well as having turning down in the hulls of the boats. We then want to just go ahead and close up the top. Going by the same rules that we did for doing the bottom, we're starting off just doing flush on top of those wall pieces, and then we're going 2 studs in on each one, and you're just filling it in the best you can. Eventually you'll come to a close, and you'll be able to close it all up, and it'll look so good when you're done. And there we go. You can leave it like this, or you can decide to add a few more details by putting fence railings around the middle here, starting at the top of those supports we've already built. I used these darker fence pieces, but maybe I should have used the Salty Seaport ones instead. Even so, it doesn't matter, it looks pretty good. So moving on. Let's go ahead and add these final thrusters and finish this off. Obviously, we're gonna go with large thrusters, and we're just gonna throw some in the back. So maybe 2 on each of these side boats. And then maybe 4 on the back side. And we'll kind of make it like we'll make a smiley face of thrusters. That being said, I'm gonna add 2 more large thrusters to these small ones over here, because I know I have quite a few large thrusters pushing up top, and I don't want it to get pushed downwards when we're moving. We also made some changes. You'll see that there's actually a couple more thrusters on the backside here. We also made some changes to the decor, some of the lighting, a little bit of storage, but you can do whatever you'd like. You can even throw those workstations on just like we had on the previous one. So we've got 4 extra large thrusters here on the bottom. This is gonna help things out tremendously. Highly recommend throwing at least 4 more thrusters here on the back. You could even put a couple on the small ships on the side if you'd like. We even threw in some stairs to get on this behemoth, whether you park it on the water or on ground. You're gonna wanna nudge the stair, a steep one if you can grab one or if you have one, and you're gonna nudge it underneath the floor and then obviously get rid of the fence so that you can get up like that. I did put it on both sides, and you can put it on all 4 sides if you'd like, but you definitely don't have to. I also added some of these lamps that you see here, just a different variety of them all around the ship, just to give it some nice lighting at night. It was rather dark, if I might say. And then in the back here, on the back side of the ship, we have just like a workbench with a personal chest, as well as some chests for collecting bounty. Yes, some treasure chests. I really like these new ones, so I threw 4 of them down here just in the back. There's also going to be a bed back here because the ones in the front aren't very nice. You can't really get out of them given the floor is so low. So we'll switch that up, but like I said, you can do whatever you'd like. You can add all the workstations to the side, or you can add a few more to the back here. Just make sure you're putting the balloons where they need to be. If you are going to consider putting workstations on these side boats, make sure that you put the weight of them even, so just separating them by side on each boat. And then I would recommend throwing some large activated balloons on top of the side boats as well. Up to 3 on each side should help you get all the way up to the Lost Isles Islands. But even just 2 is going to help out and get you up into the sky pretty well. You can also fly this thing pretty decently without those large activated balloons. You're probably just not clearing the highest mountains without them. Once you've made all the changes that you'd like to make to the flying ship, and yes, I say flying as I have it in the water right now, but I just wanted to test it out, and lo and behold, it works beautifully. It floats exactly the way that I want to, turns left, turns right, in a pretty good speed. And all in all, this thing turned out amazingly. But yeah, once you've got all your details in and all the workstations that you want, this thing is good to go. Go and use it how you want. You can have it in the water like you saw here, or you can take it up into the sky. And depending on how many large activated balloons you threw on is going to determine how high it goes. But it's also going to make it look a lot less attractive when flying through the sky from someone else's perspective. Now, if you play alone, that doesn't really matter, and I apologize. But hey, look at this beauty. I know a lot of you liked version 1 of the flying base, and I had to go ahead and try to make some upgrades with this one. And I really appreciate the love that you guys showed on episode 7 of the Canopy SMP. Smashing that like goal of 150 likes just to even get here. So I hope I made you guys proud, those of you who really wanted this video. Let me know down in the comments what you think of the flying ship. I think this is version 3, Destiny's Bounty. Let's not forget to drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it or if you were able to get through it. Let me know down in the comments what I should build next. Take it easy, everyone, and I will see you in the next one.
Confused.